Assalamu alaikum. In today's video, I'll be giving some more proofs for the historical accuracy of the Quran. This will be basically from the identification of Pharaoh of Exodus and his characteristics. Let's get started. So, how do we know who is the Pharaoh of Exodus from the Quran? The way we are going to use to identify the Pharaoh is his age. The Quran does not explicitly mention the age, but we can easily deduce it. So, firstly, the first relevant point and the first proof for the truth of Islam in this regard is the title of ruler of Egypt. The Quran uses the title of king for the ruler of Egypt in the time of Prophet Yusuf al-Islam, and Quran uses the title of Pharaoh for the ruler of Egypt in the time of Prophet Musa al-Islam. The Bible does not make this distinction. This distinction is significant because it is historically accurate. The title of Pharaoh was not used for the ruler of Egypt before the time of New Kingdom period, which is generally where Musa al-Islam is thought to have existed. So, this is historically accurate. So this is the first proof from the identification of Pharaoh for the truth of Islam. But more significantly, this also shows that the Quran did not plagiarize from biblical texts. Why? Because if Quran had plagiarized from those sources, then it would have the mistakes of those sources, which it doesn't. Secondly, we'll get into the identification of Pharaoh. Who was the Pharaoh of Exodus? So, like I said, we'll use the age for this, right? Because the title Pharaoh is used right instead of king, we know that this Pharaoh must be from the New Kingdom period. The Pharaoh was basically alive from the before the birth of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. This is clear from these ayat, Surah 28, ayat 7 to 9. This is clear from the Quran. According to Imam Tabri, Imam Suyuti, Imam Qurtubi, Imam Zamakhshari, and most Mufassirin, the age at which Prophet Musa alayhi salam became a prophet was 40, right? So the Pharaoh necessarily has to have ruled for more than 40 years. Prophet Musa alayhi salam was in Midian for at least 8 years and was after that in Egypt for some years. So the ruler of the Pharaoh of Exodus has to be someone who has ruled for at least 50 years, and that Pharaoh is in the New Kingdom period. Most historical scholars say that the Pharaoh of Exodus is Ramses II. Now, here's why this identification in and of itself is a proof for the truth of Islam. This is the only pharaoh who existed in the New Kingdom period who ruled for more than 50 years, Ramses II. So the Quran correctly identifies the pharaoh of Exodus according to what most scholars say who is the pharaoh of Exodus. So this is the second proof for the truth of Islam in this regard. Now, what are some of the characteristics of Pharaoh of Exodus? The Pharaoh of Exodus was basically extravagant. This is mentioned in the Quran. I gave one example of an ayat here, and there are numerous references showing this point that scholars generally agree that Ramses II was very extravagant. I've given a couple of references here. Thirdly, actually, fourthly, Ramses II claimed to be divine. Quran mentions this, right? Like in the ayat I mentioned, and there are other ayats in this regard as well. This is something actually that's agreed on as well by historians because there are numerous references and inscriptions like from that time period where Pharaoh is described as God and is claiming to be God, right? So another proof for the truth of Islam. Yet another proof for the truth of Islam from Egyptian history is the fact that Quran mentions that not only Pharaoh claimed to be God, but other gods were being worshipped in ancient Egypt as well at that time period. I have given the ayat there, and the reference is like this is something also evident. There were various false deities in that time period that were being worshipped, and the Pharaoh was claiming to be God as well. Now, this is quite counterintuitive for the simple reason that if the Pharaoh, someone in the 7th century of Arabia would think, if the Pharaoh is claiming to be God, why would there be other gods as well? Why would he allow other gods? But this is something that is clearly present in ancient Egypt and is yet another proof for the historical accuracy of the Quran. Moreover, the Quran says the body of Pharaoh would be preserved, and this is something that is well known. We have the body of Ramses II, it is preserved. And I mean, how would the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ have known this? How could he possibly know this other than being revelation? So it's yet another massive proof for the historical accuracy of the Quran. I don't think there's any way around this, and I think all of this is an absolutely massive proof for the truth of Islam. Now I'll go into some contentions that come up in my debates and generally Orientalists whine about. First contention is the Quran does not mention the name of the Pharaoh or his age. Okay, why does the Quran need to mention those things? We can clearly identify the Pharaoh from the Quran, right? Why does Quran need to explicitly mention the Pharaoh or explicitly give it an age? This is such a subjective value judgment from desperate atheists, and it should be rejected because it's subjective. Another contention is made against the Quran is that the Bible has two pharaohs. The people making this contention don't bother to think, how is this a contention in the Quran? The Bible is wrong, the Quran is right, and the Quran is different from the Bible. How is this a contention? Thirdly, and this contention is actually quite commonly made from desperate Orientalists. Pharaoh in the Quran is not a name but a title. Their reasoning behind this contention is that in the Quran it just mentions Pharaoh, Firaun. It doesn't say Al Firaun, the Pharaoh. So their reasoning goes this shows that it is a personal name, not a title. This contention does not work. Why? Because in the Ahadith, when the rulers of Persia and Rome are mentioned, right? Constantinople are mentioned, they are called Qasr and Kisra, not Al Qasr and Al Kisra. So this is how titles were denoted without the Al. So this contention is dead as well, and it's actually quite a desperate and pathetic one from Orientalists, but again it's easily refuted. Next contention is that Ramses II died of arthritis and was too old to be the pharaoh of Exodus. The reasoning goes behind this that the pharaoh basically could not travel to the escaping Egyptians, like the Quran says he does. So he cannot. Ramses II cannot be the pharaoh of Exodus. This contention is actually easily refuted and it's quite stupid actually. The very simple reason being that if the pharaoh cannot ride there, right, he could be carried there like in a carriage or something. So this contention doesn't even work in principle. Like this is just grasping at straws. Another contention made against basically all of this is that the body of Pharaoh being preserved is that it is not a prophecy rather than a historical fact. That this is not supposed to be a prophecy, that the Quran is mentioning that the body of Pharaoh was present and preserved at that time. It's Quran is not making a prophecy. Firstly, I don't see why uh, I need to take this interpretation seriously, but let's suppose for a minute that I do. It's still a proof for the truth of Islam. Because if the body of Pharaoh is preserved today, it was preserved 3000 years ago, right? This is mentioned in the Quran and it is proof for the truth of Islam then as a historical fact rather than a prophecy. Our next contention is made against this argument for the truth of Islam is that mummification is mentioned in some historical books, pre-Islamic works, so the Quran is not seeing anything new here. Firstly, let's grant for a minute that mummification is mentioned. So what? Is the mummification of Ramses II mentioned in those books? No. The Quran is mentioning this it's not there and it's still a massive proof for the truth of Islam. Secondly, we can show through other examples such as the use of silver coinage in ancient Egypt that Quran does not have the mistakes of those books, pre-Islamic historical works. If that's the case, the plagiarism claim does not even work in principle. In conclusion, inshallah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Again, this is an extremely powerful proof for the truth of Islam, and the contentions against it, I hope you have seen, don't work and actually are quite desperate and pathetic. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum. If you like this video, please share and like on the YouTube, and I would really appreciate that. Assalamu alaikum.